Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Cottage on the Hill. And if you are new to this channel, a very special and warm welcome to you. Obviously, if you are not a subscriber, we would appreciate your subscribing, giving us a thumbs up, and telling others about what's going on here as we start a garden from scratch. And boy, is there a lot going on here in the neighborhood this weekend. Oh my goodness, Stuart, we've got the marathon, we've got the arts festival. There just so many things going on. And plus, it's been an absolutely gorgeous weekend. So I want you guys to join in on this beautiful Sunday. So what do you say, Stuart? You want to get started?
Let's do it.
Well, okay, everybody, grab your cup of coffee, your cup of tea, your whatever, your chai, your beverage of choice, because we're going to talk about more developments. And Stuart, last week, I think I jumped the gun a little bit. I said finishing touches on the front yard because really we're not far from finishing, but we did put up information on a few fun things like the window box and such. But there are some major topics and infrastructure issues that I did not discuss that I think many of you pointed out to me, gave me some good advice on. So let's address them now, starting with the turf. Originally, and as you guys know, I work organically in my garden design. I start out with an initial plan, but then as conditions change, as I see the size, the shape, the beauty of the plants that arrive, I kind of just morph my design, taking those kinds of things into account. And also how it begins to look to me as one thing changes, because I often talk about my theory of garden relativity, and that's every one thing you do affects every other thing you do. And so because of that, the upper terrace, the upper flower beds really informed how I felt about the rolling terrace. And somebody was saying, oh, that's not really a terrace. I'm using the vernacular that is used officially in this neighborhood, called the rolling terrace. And so as a matter of definition, to me, I consider that the upper terrace, and this is the rolling terrace below. That is really not in ship shape right now. There's lots of issues, and as I have often said, if the canvas to the painting doesn't really look good, then it detracts from the beauty of all of the other plants and the painting that I am trying to create up there. So let's talk about getting the grass in shape. I think I mentioned, was it last weekend or on the Wednesday walkabout, that I wanted to give it a good old college try of renovating the Bermuda grass here. Let's first talk about my selection of grass. I did not select it. Bermuda grass was already on this hill, and it is the predominant variety of grass that is up and down the street. And I didn't want a major departure from that by putting in artificial turf or fescue or even zoysia to a certain extent. And definitely the zoysia and the synthetic turf could have handled the heat, which is extremely pronounced on this south-facing bank. But the Bermuda also will be able to tolerate that, and it is probably the most ubiquitous grass used in Oklahoma, just basic U3. So once it gets really hot, it will take off. Nevertheless, by the time it takes off, I manage all of the crabgrass, and I manage some of the other weeds coming up in here, and the healing takes place from the irrigation system and the irrigation line that went along the front border of my property. I ended up agreeing with probably 90% of you who said, why don't you just sod it? And I thought I was going to have patience enough for this to really heal itself, but I've decided that I don't. And so because, the other thing it's important to point out is there is expense in taking out the underlying soil, in putting down sod. There is also a certain amount of time before that sod takes hold. Nevertheless, because I recognized that once all of the drift roses get in the corners, and I have something of a border, a trough, I'll show that to you later, along the front edge, there wasn't going to be that much sod that I needed to purchase and put in place to get this area greened up. The other thing was, by the time I put in the sod itself should be relatively green and not brown like it would be had I done it earlier in the season. Does that make sense, Stuart?
Yeah.
Okay, because it will be coming out of its dormancy. So this side, I am pretty much going to sod, and within a relatively short amount of time, I think it will look very good. This side, on the west, however, really wasn't in as bad a shape. It didn't have as many divots in it where I had done some weed removal. It doesn't have as bad of a crabgrass problem. And so because of that, on this side, I'm going to put sod just along the border to prevent mud washing out onto the sidewalk, but the rest of it I think can recover on its own with keeping an eye on it, a little more watering that I would normally give it, and also, and again, as soon as the heat and that fertilizer kicks in, I think it will be a pretty dramatic improvement. So this side I'm willing to be a little bit more patient with. Now, why else did I select Bermuda? Because yes, it can be problematic in the way runners can really take off and invade your flower beds, and that's definitely an issue. But I handle that by a certain kind of edging, which I will demonstrate later. The other reason I selected Bermuda, in addition to the fact that it's just tough as nails, and when it gets very, very hot, I can let it go dormant, unlike fescue, which will just die out. But another reason that I choose Bermuda is because Bermuda typically does go dormant, i.e. turn brown in the wintertime. And I don't necessarily like to have a brown winter lawn, but I can correct that here because I can overseed it with a perennial ryegrass. So then it gets that really green, lush look in the winter and in the spring, or at least in the fall and the spring, and a little less so in the winter. That way, when all of my tulips are in bloom next year, this will be green, not brown, and I think it'll be really lovely. And because, again, it's such a small area, I just have throw rugs of turf, it should be inexpensive and easy to do, even being on a slope. Because when I overseed it, and I'll talk about that much more extensively when it's time to do it, but the seed itself will fall into the cracks and the crevices, and the coverage of the Bermuda itself. It will fall into the Bermuda grass. And because of that, then I won't have that kind of runoff. And even on a slope, it should be able to take hold fairly easily. Now, down here on the public side, I dug out a lot of the weeds. I've got some Dallas grass over here that needs to come out, and a little bit.
Oh, is that what that little?
Yeah, that is Dallas grass, and this over here is Poana.
Why is it called Dallas grass?
I don't know, but it is very vexing. But I've got some Poana over here, which is this kind of weedy ryegrass. Sometimes you can mistake it for just real grass. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to remove this. The frustrating thing about this is the way it goes to seed. And you can see all of those many, many seed heads. And then you can't control this because you can't put a pre-emergent on it if you want to overseed with regular ryegrass for the spring. However, it's not going to be a problem down here because this public area I'm not going to overseed. I want it to look like everyone else's in the spring, in the summer, and in the fall. So I will not overseed this. I probably have completely confused you, but I'll talk about the chronology of doing all of these things later in the year as we begin to do it. Suffice it to say that that's my rationale for now having sod on the east side and for my selection of Bermuda grass. The other thing that was a problem when I first moved in is this was very uneven. There was some trenching, obviously some, I don't know, vehicles or something had rolled over this area, and so any kind of dirt that I dig out were then infilling these crevices and these ruts with that new soil. So that's that about the grass. Stuart, what do you say we take a break, you guys go warm up your coffee, and then I'm going to show you some other things that are probably one of my favorite changes to the front garden. Ooh. We'll be right back.
Am I the only one that can't get Bermuda, Bahama, come on pretty mama out of my head from all that Bermuda talk?
I don't know, but now I have a worm in my brain. I've got a music worm in my brain. Victor, did you recognize that song? You did.
I think I was the only one.
For the first time. So, Stuart, thank you for that.
Somebody
now I'm going to
out
have
there.
that in my head all day long.
Somebody
but it
out
would
there
make
was
it would make a nice soundtrack for our working out here today. So my friend Victor is here. He is helping me just do miscellaneous planting. You guys know Victor. Thank you, Victor. And we're doing what is probably to me made the biggest difference, and that is really getting a more mature look established in the front yard. And obviously that will take place as things grow in, but a way I could instantaneously do that was by dropping in, planting in. And yesterday I was out here doing lots of my own planting, but for these big things I have to get help, and Victor came to my rescue. So I had these mammoth boxwood balls that I brought from the other house, and he has dropped these strategically in place. So now it gives the upper terrace, I think, instant maturity along with the really large hollies. And I love the way it looks. And it will give really good foundational evergreen structure in the wintertime. This, I know you will ask, this is a Green Mountain boxwood. It is probably one of my very favorite varieties for not only handling the heat in summer, but also the cold in the winter. And yes, frequently you will get winter burn on it, but that we can address, and I'll show you how I address that momentarily. So I've got one large boxwood ball here. I wanted two smaller boxwood balls along this path, this stairway path coming up to the top terrace. So I added two more relatively mature, a little bit larger boxwood that I had waiting in the wings in the back, and I added one on that side, and that will be kind of in the background of the drift roses, and I added one on this side. Obviously they need some trimming, and I will do that. Now you may ask, oh, and then the other one that I added was up in the distance. Stuart, can you see over here?
Oh, I think I can see it, yeah. So if I can see it, they can probably see it.
Over here I planted another huge boxwood ball to kind of fill that void there. And I was very strategic in where I wanted those anchoring plants to be. I also planted another relatively large one up here in and amidst the hydrangeas, so it will be a beautiful evergreen foil in contrast with those white wedding hydrangeas from Southern Living. And I've got one Dear Dolores from Southern Living in there, and I'm going to see if they can handle this sun and this aspect. I may have to move them. Everything is an experiment after all.
Are you out of boxwoods? Or are there still more?
I have a few more, and those will come in later in the week. But for right now, this is what I've got to work with. So you may ask, okay, if they were so fundamental, why didn't I put them in first? And that was because first of all, it was a priority. I wanted to get all of those southern living plants in the ground before they got really stressed. I also wanted to see the size and the scale of them as they grow in mass, and where they could have an adequate amount of visual weight over time. And then I held on to these others because I wanted to see where I would need it. And so I postponed that a little bit. So Stuart, you guys always are so great. You tell me what you like, and please continue to do that in the comments below of what you find instructive, what shots we get you find instructive. And one of them, Stuart, is when we come down here. Let me snap you down.
All right, go, okay, go ahead.
Okay, now that we're down here, Victor, do you agree with me that we had the right placement?
Yes.
Okay, so when I am planting these things, I always ask for Victor. Victor has a great design eye, so I ask for Victor's opinion, and I would say 99% of the time we agree.
Yes.
We agree on the placement of them. And I think we're in agreement that I needed one there, and it's kind of hard to tell, but I needed one over there. Yeah, okay, so thank you, my friend. And then we've got the other ones in here. Now, the next stage will be, once everything's in place, I'll come back and prune these up and get them looking a little bit more tidy. So I want to address another comment that you guys made because I think it's very, very telling. And I agree with you. Like a lot of you said, the window box looks kind of messy or jungly, and some of the stuff on the upper terrace looks kind of messy and jungly, and I agree with you. And it's because it, first of all, has not matured and filled out, but also because it was really missing some key evergreen components, which are now coming into place. The other thing I can always say is I remember reading a blog with a bunch of comments from Monty Don, and somebody said, oh, I think Monty, it looks kind of messy or whatever. And I figure if Monty Don's contemporary look messy, mine, I'm in good company then. Mine can look messy for a while too.
Oh yeah.
Let me know if you guys agree. In fact, that's my question of the day. If you guys do not follow or not familiar with Monty Don, most of you probably are, over across the pond, then you must become familiar with him. He is absolutely brilliant and has so much to share, not only from a horticultural and a design standpoint, but also from very personal stories that he shares about gardening as it relates to mental health and our physical and mental well-being. So check him out. That's my question of the day. Okay, so Stuart, do you think that by showing them this aspect, it shows how what I mean by evergreen weight?
Well, yeah.
I talk about it a lot, and visual weight. Okay.
I love making all the references you say, because in graphic design, it's the exact same.
It's the exact same
idea,
thing,
yeah.
because it's all
Negative
about
space,
composition.
yeah.
It's about composition, whether
Yeah.
it's interior or
Cool.
exterior. And I promise you guys, we are going to get back inside the cottage a little bit later if you're interested in that. Okay, let's come back up here for a minute now. In fact, Stuart, you know what? Let's take a little break because we're going to start on a different topic. Well, if you have followed me for any length of time, you know that one of my key signature touches is topiary. And I didn't want to put these two large topiaries in place until I had the boxwood balls in place, because then I think it would really make this look a little bit too busy. So these came out of the greenhouse, gosh, maybe about a month ago. Victor helped me get them out of the greenhouse. These are Eugenia topiaries, which very much look like boxwood. They're related, they are in the myrtle family, but they are not cold hardy. So these have to go into the greenhouse every year. I have had these, I want to say, for probably 5 years now. Look at how massive they are.
Yeah, they're cool.
Remember when we first started shooting these?
Yep.
They are just so massive. And they are in these lightweight plastic pots.
This is my favorite part. They're in
that,
the
that
ground.
that go into the greenhouse. I can lift them up, take them out. But this year we because it's so windy up here at the cottage, we buried them, we buried the pot itself into the ground. And then when it's time for me to put them back in, we'll just lift them out, and I anticipate I'll put lots of flower bulbs, lots of tulip bulbs in there in a pre-dug hole. So that will make it that much easier. These love the heat. They do great in full sun. They repeat and accentuate and I think harmonize beautifully with the other round elements in the gardens. Now, I love the way this will repeat and help unify the whole garden, but it will repeat this spherical form that already exists in the other boxwood, in the heads of the gorgeous agapanthus from Southern Living Plant Collection. It will repeat the rounded contours of the window, and I think it will just really be beautiful and add architectural interest. And again, these can handle the summer sun. They can really handle the heat, though they cannot handle the cold. So these will come back out. But I've got these in place, and again, because they're so large, it gives instant maturity to an immature garden. So if you go back, and I don't know if we can do it or not, Stuart, but if you go back and we just put in once again the contrast of what it looked like when there was nothing here, and then compare and contrast that with what it looks like now from the street, I think it's pretty impressive. So if you are now just joining us, or if you have not followed along on the journey of building this garden from scratch, then we have put together, and I think we'll put it up this week, we are going to put up together one very, very long video of highlights, okay, of the chronological evolution of putting this front garden together from the very beginning to where we are at this point in time, and be looking for that. So if you're interested in rewinding and going back and seeing where we were then and have we really made much progress, and it will be, actually we're doing this mostly for my own edification so that I can really feel as if I've got a ta-da moment instead of a constant list of to-dos. Because we have gotten a lot done here, have we not? We have. So that is where we are at this point in time. But in addition to all of the landscaping elements, let's not overlook the seasonal components that are starting to finally come into play and get established. And that is all of the purple things that are starting to come out. Look there, look at can you see the butterfly? I cannot believe the number of butterflies and bees I have had. It's absolutely unbelievable to me how many we have had, and it has delighted so many children.
See the monarch down here?
Oh yeah, it's not dead, is it?
He moved a second ago. I don't know
Oh, just rest, I don't know. Okay.
where he is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
oh my goodness.
He was just watching the show.
Okay, for a minute I thought,
He was just watching Linda.
oh, that made me get nervous for a minute there. So, I mean, but look at, they're just, and this is very few compared to how I normally have. Oh my gosh, yesterday after the marathon, There were so many, it was absolutely unbelievable. So even the insect wildlife contributes its own color palette to the garden, and I think it's going to be really pretty. And then along, and no, I still have not gotten in my additional stepping stones. I'm working on that. But in the foreground, I have added more pentas. I've added some Dusty Miller as I wait for all the things that I seeded to start growing up and getting big. But I think it's coming together. Look how pretty, if you can just turn around, Stuart. I've still got some more mulching to do, but look how pretty Lemon Lane looks from here, even with the garden tools and things.
Give him a good shot. I just gotta not step on stuff.
Yeah, I think Lemon Lane looks beautiful. And once again, we need to put up a recipe card. We'll do that in a future video. But how beautiful Lemon Lane looks with the Miss Lemonabelia and the Lemon Lime Nandina, and then also the Golden Joseph's coat. And you can already tell how much it's grown and how much new foliage has come out on it. And I love the way it looks with the stepping stones as it goes around to the west side of the house, which is still a mess. But I promise that there will be some very, very final finishing touches that go on. And the biggest final touch will be when it's actually everything is cleaned up, the hoses are put away, the tools are put away, the mud is washed off of the sidewalk. And by the way, I know I'm going to get a million questions on this, on what kind of hose I'm using. Well, you guys know that I love the Giraffe retractable hose reel. I had them at the other house. Here, at least in the front, I cannot have one of those because of the positioning of where my water spout is. So instead, I have, I'm loving this. In terms of the hose itself, this is my new favorite hose. And this is just a lightweight, non-kinking metal hose.
Let's say, guys, yes, it's metal.
Yes, it is metal, but oh my goodness, it's very lightweight. And it works great, and it truly does not kink. So you can get this. I bought, I think for up front, I got the 100-foot one, and then I got a shorter one for the side yard. But these are great, and because they're so lightweight, they're really easy for me to coil up by the water fountain. So I wanted to tell you about that. I will put a description in the link below and also in an Instagram story for you guys because it works really great. There have been, I cannot convey to you how much I love this neighborhood. And how fun it is to be in such an energetic, youthful, vibrant area. And what I also love is I love the way that it's so multi-generational. So there'll be babies, and there'll be the parents, and then there'll be the grandparents, and then there'll be brothers and sisters who come by. Yesterday, it was just a parade of people coming by to say hello and check on the garden after the marathon and the art festival. So it's just been very, very fun, and I don't regret for a moment moving from the fairy tale house to this cottage on the hill. And I'm going to leave it at that, but give you a little bit of a glimpse of another reason that I like it, and that's its accessibility to so many fun, important events in the downtown Oklahoma City area. Well, I wanted to hop on for one last minute to brag a little bit because I noticed this morning on my watch after the marathon yesterday, because we walked the 5K and then we walked back from downtown, and this morning my Apple Watch told me that I had more steps than I've ever had recorded, and maybe that's why my feet hurt today. Feet hurt today in addition to the marathon and the walking back and the working in the garden yesterday. I definitely got my steps in, well in surpassing my 10,000 steps I try to get in a day. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I want to give a shout out to Oklahoma City. Big gold star to you. I am so proud of the marathon, of really how we responded on that momentous day on April 19th in 1995. Proud of you, proud of my community, and I am very grateful. I'm very grateful, as I am very grateful for all of you for following along on this journey at the Cottage on the Hill.